a spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples today. Welcome to Totally Lit, the podcast celebrating reading, writing and creating literature. I'm your host, Ky Garvey. Thank you for listening.
Amy Freund, welcome to Totally Lit.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to chat about your book, Amigo the Capybara.
Yes.
Capybaras are amazing. So I'm so pleased that you've written a book about it. Would you like to share a little bit about the book?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm the same. I've always loved capybaras. It was actually a game that I used to play, and you could be a capybara as a character. And I sort of thought, this is the funniest animal. I looked it up. There's these hilarious giant rodents. I thought, what can I do with this? They're so funny. And so I started to write like a going on a bear hunt-esque kind of book about it. And then as I was writing it, I kept coming up with this character in my mind. And I was like, oh, I just have to write him down because he's such a fun, lovable, silly guy. So, yeah, that's kind of where Amigo came from, and also seeing all the pictures of capybaras with animals balanced on them or partying, relaxing with different hilarious animals like crocodiles and turtles and like everything, that they could relax if they were. So Amigo kind of celebrates that. So it's a fun story about a very extroverted capybara who has a grumpy, very introverted neighbor called Mila, the chinchilla, and his sort of escapades to get her to become his friend. And it sort of happens in the most unlikely way.
Capybaras are trending at the moment, I feel. I did some workshops with some kids recently and we were just doing some free drawing and there were capybaras featured quite a bit. So I don't know if it's the name that kids are loving or whether they're just a bit quirky or what it is, but it does feel like capybaras are in. What response have you had from kids with the book?
Exactly. They love the capybaras. There's a bit of a viral song that just sort of says the word capybara multiple times with like a silly backing track. So I think they've really jumped on that. And yeah, every time I sort of say the word, they're like, I love these animals. And it's always like a fun little moment. There's always a little bit of a pinch me as well that they kind of know it and they enjoy it. Or when they get it and they get really excited, it's such a nice feeling.
Have you seen a capybara in the reels?
Oh, not yet. That is the next on my list. They have one at Taronga and they also have them at Currumbin Zoo. So
I've seen the one at Currumbin.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you love it? Was it hilarious?
Yes. And the zookeepers have great stories to share about them and they look like they're living their best life.
They would be living their absolute best life. So no, that's next on the to-do list. I'm hoping in January I can go up and visit Currumbin or even Taronga. We're in Melbourne, so we're sort of close. Go up and do a story time. I think it'll be a good time.
And do you want to tell me a little bit about your writing career, how you've got into being a picture and book author?
Yes. So I actually started in the publishing industry. So I did a double degree of visual arts and journalism at Monash, and I was doing an internship at the time. And my boss, they do that review of what you want to do and where you want to see yourself. And I sort of said, I'd love to be in publishing or do writing. And she had a friend that needed an assistant. So I started at Hardy Grant when it was Hardy Grant Egmont in the licensed brands area. So I was working on all of their branded book content, and part of that was being able to actually write some of the books. So I had a lot of fun.
Exciting.
It was so exciting. And to think about it, I was like 21, 22 at the time. It was just such a dream. And also I was so lucky to have gotten that opportunity to sort of go in at that age. So I wrote for Thomas the Tank Engine. I did this book called Thomas Comes to Australia where he...
I got so excited then.
all around. Yeah.
Thomas. It's like he's famous.
Yeah, I really...
Or a real person when he's actually a fake train.
Exactly. They just launched a Shane the Train, which was an Australian train. And I said, we have to do something where they're traveling together. And I kept just kind of every meeting, I'd be like, Thomas comes to Australia, Thomas. And then finally like, just do it. Just do the book. And so, yeah, that was a really fun opportunity. And I did Winnie the Pooh. I got to write an Easter story, lots of colouring books, lots of other little board books and things like that at that time. And then I moved to Bonnier Publishing Australia, which doesn't exist anymore, but it did have 5 Mile as a small publishing house for kids. Then we got to do things like Trolls, the Wiggles,
Wow.
all of that fun
I
stuff.
didn't really realize that there were internal writers
Yes.
at publishers. So
So
I'm
this
learning something today.
Yeah, well, it's actually quite an interesting area because when you go in as an editor, editing is your role, but a lot of it is actually doing a lot of that copywriting, that ghostwriting that comes along with
Okay.
books as well, especially in the branded area because you're making so much content. A lot of it is like the coloring books, so you've got to write the coloring books, but also a lot of it is the board books, the smaller picture books, the retelling of the actual episodes, which then you're writing them yourself as the editor in that team. And it is a really fun actual area of the industry. It's different from trade because you do get to have that hands-on experience and you can really be quite creative within the scope of a brand's identity.
So cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's really fun. I was there at 1 year till they closed. And then when the new 5 Mile started, I moved there and I was there for quite a few years, again, in the branded area. So doing a lot of writing. And I actually got to also ghostwrite Laura Blythman, who's an amazing artist, her 2 books. So we did those together at their Search and Finds.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, I got to write the rhyming content that went along with it. So each page has a rhyme that relates to the Search and Find as like little coffee table books. So yeah, then I sort of moved out of the industry because I wanted to do more of my own writing, so more author writing. And I actually now work as a designer doing show bags and
that sounds fun.
which is really fun, and sort of focus on my writing that way because I had all these ideas and I thought I just got to get out there and do them. So for the past maybe 4 years, I've just sort of been on the outside writing my picture books and pitching them around and seeing if they get picked up. And yeah, Migo's the first one to be picked up. So I'm very excited about it getting a life.
And have you found your experience within publishing as opposed to outside publishing, has that been helpful with developing your pictures and ideas and then presenting? Because I know, for example, myself, who had no experience at all, figuring out the industry has been an interesting learning.
Yes.
Were you able to lean on any of that previous experience that you've had to move forward with your picture book?
Yeah, well, it has been a really great skill to sort of know the trends or like what the expectations are in different ways. I think that's really helped. In terms of pitching and actually getting published, it doesn't actually matter. I had a question like this before actually, and they said, you know, is it because you're in the industry, does it help? I said, look, really, it doesn't. You get judged as all the same. You're still going through the soft trial. Like it's still that same entrance in without an agent because I'm unagented as well. So it's one of those things where I'm still at that ground level. Like I probably got about 35 different rejections or no hearbacks until I did get one. So it wasn't like I could kind of get in the back door in any way. I would say that definitely it's helped me to understand and identify trends in the market. Yeah. Also the expectations of the publisher for what they're looking for at different times, and then being sure to like write something in that way. Like I guess it kind of helped doing toys because toys are so trend driven that I could see the trends coming up and then think, oh, I reckon this would translate really well into books. And then I kind of knew from being in the industry how character books are trending and they're the ones that are sort of becoming more and more what people want to pick up rather than just a general picture book. So my original idea of we're going on a bear hunt, but can you catch a capybara was sort of a bit too general. And that's where I thought, well, actually, I could do this character base. And I think that would land in the market a lot better. So it was good that I had sort of that experience. But being out of the industry for a few years, I've probably got some old school intel. But I think, yeah, it has sort of helped. And just knowing that doing the submissions, following that to a T is really the most important thing, because I remember being on the other side and we would get things coming through. And if it's not exactly how you want it, as horrible as this sounds, it might just get deleted straight away because they have so many submissions coming through all the time that it's easy to discount ones that don't follow their submission guidelines.
Okay. And have you been having lots of fun with this release? Because I think that for me has been the best thing is getting out and meeting the kids and doing some fun activities and just hearing their responses to the stories. Yeah. Have you been enjoying that?
It's been so much fun, even to see it online, like to see people love what you've written. It's just such a nice feeling and such a full experience. Like every time someone posts a review, I'm so nervous. So I'm like, oh, what if they don't like it? And then they're always like, oh, it's fun. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And I've got my first school visit on Thursday this week. So I'm very excited. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm excited to sort of hear all the questions from the kids. Like I've been doing an author pen pal correspondence group this year.
It's the best. I'm an author pen pal as
Yes.
well.
Isn't it so good? And the kids have followed me through the whole journey. So when I started with them, I'm like, hey, I've got this thing that's coming out. Like I'm about to sign the contract. And so I started with them and they've sort of seen the book through all of its stages. And they drew me pictures of Amigo and we talked about how it's their favorite story because I sent them the manuscript. It was so nice to sort of see that happen throughout the year. So I feel very special.
I picked, because I spent some time growing up in Townsville, so I picked a school in Townsville to write to. And it's been fun to talk about some of the local things in the area.
Yes.
Like, oh, have you been to the Billabong Sanctuary? I'm like, yes, I went there many times when I was growing up. And I saw a crocodile and a fruit bat. And so that's been fun to be able to sort of connect at an extra level with the kids because I've lived where they've lived. So have you got anything else in the pipeline?
It's a good question, actually, because I have a few irons in the fire. I've got an idea for book 2 for Amigo. And then I've got a couple of picture books, which I've had previously that I'm thinking, oh, maybe I could, change them up a little bit and sort of give them new life. But I've actually got a middle grade series that I've been pitching around that I really hope gets some life, about a group of kids that live on Macquarie Island while their parents being scientists in Antarctica. And it's
could be a
mystery adventure. Yeah, so they find a map and, it's one of those sort of famous 5S.
Flat idea.
Yes, I'm really excited about that one. But it's funny because I've been doing the Faber Writing Academy this year for a YA novel I'm writing. And I looked back at my manuscript, which I wrote last year, and I read the first line and I absolutely cringed. I went, oh, this writing, because I just feel like I've learned so much more in doing that opportunity. I would highly recommend if anyone has the opportunity or would like to do the Faber Academy. It is so good for honing your skills. I just feel like a totally different writer from when I started it to now. And I feel like I want to go back and rewrite that whole middle grade series again, just to tighten it up.
Speaking of Faber Writing Academy, they have a scholarship coming up that you can apply for. I am in no way affiliated with Faber Writing Academy, but I do have my eye on applying for it. And the writing a novel and writing a YA novel scholarship closes on the 10th of November. And I'm mainly disclosing that I have no affiliation because I want to apply.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's the one that I did this year, was that one. So I didn't get the scholarship, unfortunately, but the girl that did in my class, her book was amazing. But I was so grateful to be asked to be in the actual program because it's been so lovely. I think they run a few at different times. There were 2 classes this year and there's a group of 12 of us. And it's been so great because you actually get that writing community as well. So I feel like I've now sort of got this connection of different writers and we're all writing different things, but able to support each other through the journey because it can be quite a solo journey. And I'm wondering if some listeners have felt a little bit like it's quite a lonely experience sometimes, or it can be quite a nerve-wracking experience. So it's nice to have other people that, when a rejection comes through, which happened to me, I was like, oh, guys, I got a rejection, and then getting all this lovely feedback and positive feeling about your book. And I really feel that in general, like having a writing group is such an amazing thing, something that I've always been too nervous to join. But now I would say I just want to go and do that because, I think we've got such a great creative writing culture in Australia. And I think we've got so many great people that are so positive and so helpful. And I think being part of the community has also really helped me get a little bit more confidence in my own writing too.
I think it's so important to share your experiences, whether they're positive or negative, because I think with the way social media is and also when you're marketing your book and your career, you're pushing out all this positive stuff to continue your marketing. Yes. And no one really hears about, oh, well, I got this rejection or I had an event where no one showed up, because you don't share those as part of your marketing plan. But when you are chatting with authors who are still at the start of their journey where they've written something great, they want to submit it out there, and they don't necessarily see all the hits that you take aside the wins. So
Yes.
we're all going, yes, I've got this publishing contract, but you may not necessarily hear about the 35 rejections that it took to get that contract. So having a community around you where everybody is commiserating with you and cheering you on, it can help push you forward and get better and maybe take that leap when you're looking at something like the Faber Writing Scholarship. You're like, oh, okay, my community has tried that and been successful. I can do that too. So I think we do need to share all of our experiences.
Yes,
Because we're
definitely.
all going through it.
Right.
It's
all at different times. And you feel so close to your book because it's part of you that it is hard to receive maybe nothing back or feedback that it's not right now or it's not right for this place, but doesn't mean that you're not right or that your writing's not great. You know, I always just think we have to keep saying that it's just not for them at that moment. And that's okay. We can just keep trying. We'll just keep going. All ideas are amazing ideas and someone will appreciate it. Someone will find it at some point. And it has been really nice to feel that encouragement coming through because exactly it can be disheartening when you're getting the rejections coming in or the no responses and it's a bit hard to stay the course.
Yes. Yeah. And I think a writing career is a long-term career and sometimes your success will be 5 years in, not
exactly
the day you send something off.
Yeah. I know. I always think it's, you know, most of the people I've spoken to, it's the few later that then get picked up. It's not exactly the first one in. It's amazing when it is like so good. But yeah, a lot of times, so those people that have the first hit, they've been sitting on that manuscript for so long or perfecting it for such a time. It's interesting and it is fun, like keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Yes.
It is definitely a challenge.
And I think just finding ways to keep yourself motivated and keep producing, like especially if you've written something and it's not getting any traction, sometimes you just have to pop that on the shelf and write something else and come back.
Yes.
And really this whole podcast was out of me needing to produce something and see a result because it was a long time, I think 18 months, 2 years to get easy peasy published, but I'd written 2 manuscripts before that still have not been published. And so I needed something to see results from while I was waiting for outcomes. And sometimes you don't get a response back from a publisher that you've submitted to. So if you wait for that, you have little result, I guess. So you just have to find your wins where you can. So it sounds like you've been doing that as well.
Yeah, it is a bit of a struggle sometimes. Like that middle grade, I'm hoping next year I might bring it to life again because exactly it's something I'm feeling really strongly about. I'm like, I just have to do something with it, you know. And after I got a couple of no's, I was like, oh, maybe it's not right. But if you feel confident in it and exactly like trying to pick those little moments out and even doing something like this today, being able to chat about these actual honest and raw things that actually happen in your experience and your journey as an author is so nice because it kind of validates the experience on both sides.
But it sounds like I think when you get out into the schools a bit as well, it's really enjoyable connecting with the kids, connecting with the teachers, and it does kind of like buoy your spirits as well to go, oh, I can see the impact I'm having at that level as well, because as soon as you have someone say, oh, Amigo is my favorite character.
Yes.
Oh, this is my favorite book. Like it's incredible.
Oh, cannot wait. I'm so excited for that moment. I'm just looking forward to it.
And if your classroom gets a little bit rowdy, raise your hand. It works. Although I found all the teachers are wonderful at helping with crowd control.
Yes, I know. I was thinking that, Michael, because I get excited and then they might all get a bit rowdy, but I've got a little Amigo Capybara plush.
Oh, that's so cute.
I'm going to take with me.
So what, for anyone out there that is sitting on a manuscript that they haven't submitted anywhere and it's their first time dipping their toe into picture book writing, what piece of advice would you give them?
I would say it's a really scary moment, but once you get it out there, it's the time. I think just go for it. Like it can be quite daunting to press send on that email. But I think that, you know, no matter what, have confidence in yourself in your experience, in what you've written, and know that even if you don't hear back, you've put yourself out there, you've tried. And I always think it's better than it sitting in a drawer forever, you know, having at least someone read it, because a lot of the time they will still read it. And you might hear back, you might not, but someone's experienced that book and you're really just starting to get yourself out there. So I would say, good luck. I'm here for you. I'm here with you in that moment, and to double check everything on their website if they've got anything for their submission guidelines. And then once that's ticked off, it's just out in the world, and, you know, have a little moment to celebrate yourself that you've done something for your creative spirit and that you've really tried and put yourself out there and done the best you can. So that's what I would say. You can do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, Amy. I've really enjoyed hearing about Amigo and some of your experiences on both sides of the publishing industry. I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thank you for having me. It's been an amazing opportunity and experience, and really appreciate it.
Totally Lit is an independent podcast. You can help support us to continue to chat with wonderful Australian creatives by leaving a review on iTunes or sharing our socials with your friends. You can also make a contribution at www.buymeacoffee.com/Totally Lit. This will also help with equipment and podcasting platform fees. I love to interact with our listeners, so feel free to say hello either by email or social media at totallylitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn and Twitter, and now Blue Sky. I've also created a group on Facebook called the Totally Lit Writing Community. It's a space to continue the conversation and share your writing successes, events, launches and latest projects. Jump into the group and say hello. Thank you for listening to Totally Lit, and don't forget to go out into the world to read, write, create, ignite.